Hello, everyone. I believe you can see my screen right now. So as Ricardo mentioned, I'm Guillermo Petzhold. I'm Urban Mobility Coordinator at WRI Brazil. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the actions that Porto Alegre is deploying in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. But before going into details, I think that we all need to recognize two unavoidable facts that this pandemic highlighted. That first of them is that, well, we have never been so connected globally due to the speed that this pandemic is spread across all over the world. And the second fact is that, well, cities are at the front line of the pandemic, of this pandemic and the future ones to come, because at least by my side, I believe that this is a kind of cycle that this is the first time that we have not first time because we have the Spanish pandemic and so on, but it's something that we're going to repeat, and we need to be prepared for it. And well, we all know that due to the pandemic, cities are facing many challenges, and in Brazil is no different. Here's the headline of a few national-wide newspaper on the public transport impacts that this pandemic is causing to our cities here in Brazil, that I believe is the same scenario across all over the world. But due to this pandemic, it has started a need, but not a need, but it highlighted a need and put it on the spotlight, the need of sharing knowledge and sharing experience on how to deal with this situation and this challenge, and cities are keen in sharing which actions they are taking, how they are planning public transport in face of this pandemic, this new situation, and this led to many webinars, and one of them from the BRT Center of Excellence, and thank you for pushing this agenda in Latin America and through the center, as well as nationwide networks, as the one that WRI coordinates in Brazil, that's called the Quali-Ônibus Benchmarking Group, where we also have 17 cities from north to south sharing their experience, and we already got held 3 meetings just to share experience and plan for the future, to the new normal, as we may say. So giving a little bit of context on Porto Alegre, it is a city with 1.4 million inhabitants, and its size is almost the double if we consider the metropolitan region. We have a little bit more than 800K daily trips in public transport, and the public transit operation is divided among 4 different four different bus companies. One of them a public-owned one. It's not a common scenario for Latin American cities. And we also have a suburban train line that connects with other cities in the metropolitan region. So a little bit about the timeline. The first case here in Porto Alegre was on March 8th. By the way, the first case in Brazil was late February, and by some region was exactly the first day after the Carnival. That's our most popular party in Brazil. It's a coincidence, I don't know. But well, moving forward on that, in March 17, there was a municipal decree here in the city closing several businesses, and since then we are having weekly changes based on a statewide social distance decree that it divides our state in 20 different regions and with 4 different flag colors, each one of them posing a different restriction on opening business and its occupation, or open business, gyms, shopping malls, and so on. Well, few data on the public transport overview. Right now, we are operating with a little bit less than 60% of the fleet and a little bit less than 40% of the demand. So 100K packs per day, and still facing high fixed costs. Because the bus occupancy cap is limited to all passengers seated. So we can't have anyone standing on the bus, otherwise the operator will be fined. And this is leading to a high losses from the operator's perspective. That's 42 million reais. That will be, well, real fluctuation is changing. It's changing really quickly. So it would be less than $10 million right now. But here in Brazil, we have not an unique characteristics that probably many Latin American cities also has this scenario, but the fare revenue pays for the entire system. So we don't have any subsidy to the system. It's just the money from the fare that pays the operators. From the WRI perspective, we are facing this pandemic in 3 different stages. The first one will be the social distance. So the first measures that each city has deployed in face of it. A second phase that will be the transition period. And the third one that will be the new normal. That can be like after the vaccine, even though we don't know when it will be a reality. And I will try to answer all the questions posed by the organizers of the webinar during these 3 phases. So in the first one, the social distance, the city created a crisis committee, not only for the mobility sector, but for dealing in the health, education, and also other spheres of the public management stuff. And related to the actions focused on public transport, the city reduced or suspended a couple of services. So routes that were serving universities, since they are closed, they stop operating these routes, or in low demand areas. And they also more or less enhanced the system by eliminating or amalgamating overlapping routes. We also, as I mentioned before, we have this occupancy cap up to 50%, that will be more or less all passengers seated. And we increased the cleaning frequency of the bus. So after every single trip, the bus must be cleaned. All AC buses need to operate with the windows opened, and it's mandatory to the passengers to wear masks. The city also adopted like changing the fare discounts or exemptions, so elderly are no longer exempt because they are not supposed to be traveling or moving around. And students, since all schools and universities are closed, they don't have their exemption. Moving forward on the social distancing part, the city also established partnerships with new mobility apps. So commutes that have their origin or destination at hospitals, the city, in partnership with a private company, a ride-hailing company, provided like a package with 20,000 free trips. And they started a lot of communication campaigns, as the one at the side that may the 4th be with you and use masks and so on. So a few funny cards. In the second phase, as we call the transition period, is the moment that's crucial to shape the new normal. And as far as we understand, as WRI, is where almost all cities are right now. So there is a fear to use public transport. People are more willing to use private cars or motorcycles in the Latin America context. and maybe we will lose a lot of demand on PT services, and how should the cities respond to that if they want to maintain or improve or promote and foster, or choose the word that you like the most, more sustainable commute modes. So here in Porto Alegre, we started to leverage some agendas. So for instance, smart card usage, since money is not the best option, they started to promote campaigns to make people use the smart card more or acquire their smart cards. And we also start to leverage streets redemocratization, and turning streets that were dedicated to parking and mixed traffic usage, as you have in the left, to foster walking and cycling more. And here in the image at the right is the same avenue with, you know, Photoshop and so on, but it's already in place in fact. And in the curbside here at the right, it will be a dedicated bus lane as well. So up to now, the city has already implemented 9 kilometers of bus lanes and 4 kilometers of cycle paths, and we have more to come. So in the third stage of the pandemic that we call the new normal, we envision, well, the first question is, which measures will last after? And we believe that the cleaning patterns is something that will last, and for sure, but it's not clear to us up to now which other, for sure, routes optimization are also going to last, but we are not sure of what more will last indeed. But we know that a few agendas will be strengthened. For example, this spotlight on active modes of transport. So there is this huge willingness to start walking and cycling more, and you can maintain social distance. And cities need to leverage this momentum to put active modes of transport on the spotlight, to create a high quality bus and transit infrastructure. So what we said here is this social distance, with this social distance, all road network is right now dedicated bus lane. So operational speeds increased all over the city on more or less 30%. So now is the time to foster the agenda of dedicating the infrastructure to the bus. We have a problem here, but never mind. Get governance right. So the metropolitan scale and how to integrate services across the metropolitan region. I think both Crystal and Jim highlighted these needs in their presentations. We can also modernize and electrify bus fleets. Well, we know that they are facing huge financial challenges, but the particular matters and the correlation with the pandemic is something provide us with a few arguments that can foster such agenda. And last but not least, new revenue sources to ensure the instability to transit operations. Here in Brazil, as I already mentioned, in almost all cities, the fare revenue is the only money that covers the operation of the bus services. So it's impossible. We already knew this, but the pandemic highlighted again this need, but this again in the spotlight, that we need to find new ways to pay for the service that goes beyond just the fare revenue from the passengers. And here in Porto Alegre, they are fostering what they developed the program called Programa Transporte Cidadão. that will seek for revenue that comes from other financial sources that's not only the passengers, through 5 different axes. The first of them is the elimination of the management fee of the fare clearing house, that here we charge a little bit for that. Is the regulation of tax, regulation of ride-hailing companies and taxing kilometer fee for using this service. The third one is a congestion charging in the historical districts of the city. The fourth, the suppression of the fare collector person. So this can sound a little bit weird to you, but here we have not only the bus driver in the bus, but we also have a guy or a person that is in charge of collecting the fare inside the buses. And the fifth axis would be a urban mobility tax for companies. That will be based on the total number of formal employees on the company. That will be more or less, there are like a few examples on that in France especially, but they will, that was the basis for this idea. And if all measures together, all measures together would allow to reduce the fare for less than half of what it is right now. But the challenge is that it needs like the city council approval, and we are in the year of municipal elections. So this can be really tricky, although we don't know if the elections will happen this year in Brazil with the current scenario. Well, here you can find additional material. So WRI is also promoting a few webinars on the matter, the Build Back Better, that's in English, or the Quali-Ônibus meeting, that's in Portuguese, but it's quite similar to Spanish. So the ones that know Spanish or know Portuguese, you can check it. And thank you.